Okay, today we're going to talk about solving multi-step problems. So again, our directions that you're going to see is the word solve. And you can see I've already written a multi-step problem here. It looks complex, but it's really not that much more complex than things we've already done. We're just kind of putting a lot of things together. So the first thing we're going to put together is things involving solve, like solving two-step equations and solving variables on both sides. So if you do not know how to do those things, you should go watch the video on how to solve variables on both sides and two-step equations. The other thing we're going to put together is PEMDAS. So if you remember right, PEMDAS we use for order of operations problem, and there's definitely some order of operations here. So we're going to take care of that, and then we're going to add a couple properties along the way. But we're going to put all of this stuff together. So let's take a look at the problem. First off, I want to identify my x's, and there are a lot of them. So I got x right here, I got an x right here, I got an x right here, and I got an x right here. So we got 4 of them. And we need to get x by itself. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to get all these x's to become 1x. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to call what's called simplify each side. And when we simplify it, that means we're just going to clean it up and try to get it as small as possible. So I'm going to look at the left side first, and I'm going to look at the right side, and we're going to do both just to make them simple. So looking on the left side only, let me go ahead and circle it or highlight it. Okay, we're only looking on the left side. What I want to do is see what I can clean up. So we're going to use PEMDAS to do that. First I got parentheses, so I'm looking inside the parentheses, and I see x plus 3. Now according to PEMDAS, I want to add these things up, but I can't because I'm not allowed to combine unlike terms, and these are unlike terms. This has an x and this has a 3. Okay, you're only allowed to combine like terms. So that means x's combined with other x's, y's would combine with y's, numbers combine with numbers. So there's nothing here that I am allowed to do with parentheses, but according to PEMDAS, I have to take care of them first. Fortunately, we have a trick, and it's called the distributive property. Okay, the distributive property says that when I have a number outside, I can multiply that number or distribute it to everything inside, and that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to take this number 2 and we're going to distribute it to both the x and the 3, and when you do that through multiplication, so you got 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 3 is positive 6, and then the rest of this has nothing to do with the distribute property, so we're just going to copy. So I got plus 4x equals 6x minus 2x plus 3. Just simply copying down everything that's there. Now we're going to look on the left side, and we got a couple other things. I see x here and I see x here, but we have what's called combining like terms. So I'm going to add like terms over here. So when we have like terms, we're simply allowed to add or subtract them. So here I got a 2x, here I have a 4x. We're going to add them up. 2x's plus 4x's equals 6x's, so I have 6x. This 6 has nothing to do with the x's, so I'm going to write plus 6. And then again, we haven't touched the right-hand side, so we're just going to simply copy it. Now, the left-hand side, the only thing I have left to do is add. There are no exponents. There is no multiply that I can do. I have 6 times x, but I can't do 6 times x because I don't know what x is. So I have addition, but I can't do addition because I first have to do this multiplication that I don't know how to do. So I am not allowed to combine anymore. This is the best answer you can get by just looking at the left-hand side. So let's start looking at the right-hand side now. Again, I'm going through PEMDAS, and I got parentheses. I got to deal with them. This time I got a minus sign out front. When you have just a minus sign out front, you may think of it as a negative sign, and you can distribute this. You can think of it as a -1 if you want. But when you have a minus sign, this minus goes to everything in the parentheses, just like anything else does. So we're going to go ahead and distribute that minus sign. So we're not doing anything on the left, so we're going to just rewrite it for right now. The 6x has nothing to do with that minus sign, so it gets rewritten. And the minus sign is going to get distributed. So I got a minus times 2x is minus 2x, and negative times a 3 is minus 3. And this second negative is the one that always gets missed because the minus, and most people see it with the 2x, but they forget it gets distributed. So do not forget that minus sign. Okay, we're still got more stuff we can do on the right-hand side, so we're going to copy the left-hand side one more time. And we got right here like terms. We have 6x and 2x, and this time it says 6x take away 2x. So let's go ahead and do that. We get 4x minus 3. And just like the problem we ran into before, we have unlike terms. we're not allowed to add or subtract them because I first have to deal with this multiply, and I can't deal with this multiply because I do not know what x is. So again, I'm stuck. So now we're up here to a situation we have variables on both sides, and we're going to use our skills there where we can actually add and subtract both sides. So I'm going to look, and I see x here and I see x here. I have 6 of these x's over here, 4 of these x's over here. We're going to take the smaller one because we're going to avoid negatives as long as possible. So let's subtract 4x from the right-hand side. If I choose to do 4x from the right-hand side, I also have to do it from the left-hand side. And let's see what we get left over. We got 4x take away 4x is 0. What's left is the minus 3. Don't forget this negative. It stays with the 3. On the left-hand side, 6x take away 4x is, of course, 2x. And we still have this plus 6 that we haven't done anything with. Now I have a two-step equation. Two-step equation, x is over here on the left-hand side. I got to move the 2, and I got to move the 6. We're going to pick this plus 6 first, because when I do that, then I can avoid fractions, potentially. And if I do it on one side, I have to do it on the other. So we're left with 2x is equal to negative 9. Be careful with your adding. Take away 3, take away 6 is take away 9. And the last step is we want to divide by 2. I'm going to rewrite it over here just so we have a little bit more room. Okay, we're going to divide by 2, and if I do it on one side, I do it on the other side. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I'm left with simply 1x or x. And on the right-hand side, I end up with a fraction. That's okay. This happens to be 9/2. But at least we didn't have to add or subtract with it. It just is our answer. So this is what x is, and this is a very complex multi-step problem. But these are the things that we had to use. We had to use PEMDAS first and foremost. We used the distributive property to take care of our parentheses. We combine like terms when we have them. We got it down to a variables on both sides potentially. And then eventually it will get all the way down to a two-step equation, which you should know how to solve. So if you have questions, let me know. But the best way to get this is simply practice, practice, practice. So I'm going to give you several problems, and you just need to practice it. And when you run into things you don't know, please stop and ask for help, because that's when you're going to start learning, is when you practice these problems. If you have questions, please make sure you ask.